Good morning. We continue with the Semuchim Laad. Started off 2 days ago. And we are holding in the page test in the Dvar Malchus. Achadan tzorich lo'in eich yesh b'kach hanivroim. שמציאוס המילה אחרי שבחינת המלכוס ובחינת עד חוסרי אמשיך על דוד עושו שיהיה גילוי ה'. Okay, so the question is like this. We learned before that the work of created beings is to bring about Ein Sof in the world, and we learned that they are capable of handling, containing this type of revelation. Now we need to understand how is it possible that they would have this power, because their existence was only created, or their existence came into being only after Malchus is in a state of At, meaning Ato, but it's written without the Hey, meaning that they are deficient of the 5 images that we spoke before. Remember the pasuk is Atu Hashem levadecho. That was written with the Hey. Atu Hashem levadecho. And Atu sis Hashemayim v'Sa'oretz, it's written without the Hey, which telling us about Hashem's creation of the world. Atu sis Hashemayim, He created the heaven and the earth, but that is written without the Hey. So since our existence came into being only after Malchus is in a state of At, Aleph Taf, without the Hey. And this is the level that we were created, from Aleph to Taf, but without the Hey, without the 5 images. So how can we bring about, through our work, revelation of the Hey? Seemingly, this lofty light is above us. So basically the question is, how can we wake it up? How can we arouse this type of revelation from the Ein Sof, from Ato? So he explains in the Zohar, through iskashros. What does it mean? The connection of Shezeo the iskashros b'chesed avon. So the Zohar says, we spoke about the pasuk in the verse in Tilim, right? The whole capital Kuf Yud, that is speaking about Avraham Avinu and David. These two interpretations, Avraham and David. But over here it says, the Zohar tells us that the way to bring Ein Sof, the Ato, into the world is by Sfiras HaMalchus, which is Yehuda and David, connecting into Chesed of Avraham. That the Malchus is connected with Yehuda and David, and Avraham is Chesed. So by Malchus connecting to Chesed of Avraham, capable of tapping into this Ein Sof. Let's see. Shemash Kosvatu Ken Loilom. Pasuk in Kuf Yud in 110 it says Ato Ken Loilom, you are priest forever. Kai Gam Al Avraham. It's also referencing to Avraham Avinu. Va'inu she'amshoch or she'gam b'sfiras hamalchus yegilui, even the flow that goes into Sfiras HaMalchus, the attribute of sovereignty, the attributes of Malchus, yegilui, that the revelation of the Hey will take place even there. So it shouldn't be more At, Aleph Taf, it should be Ato. And so how is it happening? Yaledei b'chinas ha-chesed. That takes place through chesed. Shezeu afilu yaledei b'chinas ha-chesed shebeseder ishtalshus. It could even happen through chesed of ishtalshus, that within the order of degradation. Shezeu amshocho she'aledei yichud zeral pim v'nuku. And that's the amshocho that happens by the union of the feminine and Malchus, which is the emotive attributes Venukva is the Malchus. So connecting the two, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod Yesod, connecting it with Malchus. That's the union that we're talking about. This union is bringing about, causing the revelation of Ein Sof, or the drawdown of Ein Sof into this world. So it's Hamshocha, it's a drawdown that happens because of the Yichud, because of the union. As we mentioned before, the expression of the Zohar is Skashros. There's a connection, there's a bond between Malchus and the Chesed of Avraham, which is basically the Chibur, the connection between Zeir Anpin and Nukva, which is the motive attributes, and Malchus. Malachas kamo v'chamo אשר המשוך מבחינת החסד של מעלה מסר השתלשלוס. Once chesed reaches a level that is above השתלשלוס, שזהו החסד אברהם, and this is the kindness of Avraham. What is the attribute of chesed? Avraham is chesed של מעלה משתלשלוס. So we said, even if we just tap into, we create a union, but in chesed of within ishtalshelus, we can bring about the drawdown of Ein Sof. How much more so when you tap into the chesed of Avraham, which is much higher. Shalom Nema, it says about him in the book of Yeshua, it's speaking about Avraham Avinu. It says in the book of Yeshua, Ha'odom agodel ba'anokim, which means the giant within the giants. Okay? The greater, the Godel, the great within the giants. Meaning, שהחסד שלו בלי גבול. That the chesed of Avraham is unlimited. הרי בוודאי שעל ידי זה נמשך למטה מבחינת המלכוס. So it comes to tell us, when there is a revelation of chesed, and not just chesed, unlimited chesed, נמשך למטה, נמשך למטה מבחינת המלכוס. So there is a drawdown to Malchus, שיהיה בו הגילוי דעתו מולה, that you should have now ato with a hay, complete revelation. וזהו גם מה שאתה אומר על שולטונו. It says ato, the word aleph taf hey, also represents domination, control. Shilton is like governing, sovereignty. Ki at, without the hay, is a feminine, lashon nekeva. V'ata lashon zachar, and with the hay is masculine. That's the difference between ato and ata. That's what our friend mentioned yesterday. V'arei darko shel adam, darko shel ish lichbosh. The man's way, as the Gemara puts it, the man's way is to conquer. Ve'ein darka shel isha lichbosh. It's not the way of the lady to conquer. The Gemara in Yevamot and Kiddushin. Ve'ainu shinyan kibush haolam, the conquering of the world, meaning transferring the world from one reshut, from one domination to another. For example, taking the domination of the world from what does it mean to transfer domination from one side to the other? Taking it from the mundane and transferring it to Kedusha. That means transferring it from one domain to another. Taking it from Reshut HaRabim, which is a place of separation, and bringing it to Reshut HaYachid. Einem and Develt, which means to conquer the world. And that happens, conquering is done by the male, by the masculine. Umitzad HaZachar. Shinyano hu inyan chesed davka, because the Zachar, the male, is primarily the concept of chesed flow, which is interesting. Because it is chesed, he has the ability to conquer. Since there is an added giving, an added flow from the attribute of chesed, from the side of chesed, and moreover, so we have two chesed. We have chesed within the order of the world, and we have chesed that is above the order of the world. Na'aset ha'amshacha gam b'sfirat ha'malchut, so obviously chesed is giving to malchut, to the lowest level, the nukva, which is called in the Zohar the feminine, the recipient, the taker. Shemitad atzma eina gilui me'lamata. By itself, there's no revelation. There's no revelation down here. but it's hard for me to explain because you come in the middle, and I have to go back to the beginning. Yesterday I repeated the whole Ma'amar. I repeated the whole thing, but I don't mind. But it's like we just. No, but you come in the middle, so you missed the whole part, and I have to go back to explain to you what I said. So, but I'll try to tell you just in 2 words that we're speaking about. There's a pasuk in the Torah where it says, "Ata" without the hey, okay? "Ata hu melech haolam," or "Ata asita et hashamayim v'et haaretz," okay? So "Ata asita et hashamayim v'et haaretz" is written without. It's a pasuk in Nehemiah, in the prophet Nehemiah. And he writes it without the hey. Okay? He has 2 psukim. But one pasuk he says, Ata u'avai levadecha, that you are Hashem by yourself, with the hey. Then he writes another pasuk, Ata asita et hashamayim v'et haaretz, you created the heaven and the earth. Okay? So one he writes with the hey, one without the hey. Aleph taf hey. No, Ata. It's being read Ata, but meaning it's pronounced the same way, but without the hey. For some reason, the hey is missing.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So he explains that the difference between the two is really both of them have from Aleph to Taf. Ata is Aleph to Taf. They're covering everything, but one has the hey and one doesn't have the hey. So according to Kabbalah, what is the hey? Hey is 5 partsufim. 5 hey stands for 5. Stands for 5 partsufim. What is 5 partsufim? Is the ratzon of the person, the chokhmah of the person, the regesh, the emotions of the person, the dibur of the person, and the speech of the person. These 5 levels we all have in every aspect that we do. So this was deficient. When Hashem created the heaven, since the 5 is not there, it tells us that these 5 levels were deficient. The 5 partsufim, it's explained in Kabbalah, they were deficient. And we have the job to reintroduce it to the world, to bring those 5 partsufim into the world. How do we do it? So the Zohar says, through itkashrat, through connecting ourselves with chesed. What does it mean to connect ourselves with chesed? Not just chesed of Avraham. So he says there is 2 types of chesed. There is chesed that is within the world, and there is chesed that is above the world. The one is above was for Avraham? There is a lower one and there's a higher one. So he says the lower one is called chesed of seder ishtalshelut. Within the order of how Hashem created the world, ishtalshelut, one level leads to the other. Chokhmah gives to Binah, Binah gives to Dat, and Dat gives to chesed, chesed brings to Gvura. So on, there is an order within seder ishtalshelut. Then there is chesed that is above seder ishtalshelut, above the world. But he tells us, Torah tells us, that we have the capability of tapping ourselves or connecting ourselves to chesed that is above the world. Not just the chesed, the regular chesed, but chesed of, what do we gain? Above seder ishtalshelut. What do we gain by it? We gain by it, the moment that we connect ourselves to chesed, we create a connection between chesed and malchut. Malchut is the lowest level. Malchut is the recipient. So we create l'shem yichud. We create a yichud, a connection. When we create a connection, it triggers something else. What is it triggers? The Ein Sof to come down to the world. And that Ein Sof that is going to come down to the world is something that was never introduced to the world before. Meaning that when Hashem created the world, He did not use this Ein Sof. He used Ein Sof to create the world that was already minimized Ein Sof, contracted Ein Sof, squeezed Ein Sof, to create the world. The whole world was created from the Ein Sof, from the infinite light of Hashem. A level within Hashem. The powers of Hashem. It's called Ein Sof. But that power itself, there's 2 kinds of powers within the Ein Sof itself. There's Ein Sof condensed, and there's the Ein Sof original. The Ein Sof original is the Ein Sof that existed before the world came into being. Current Ein Sof is the Ein Sof after the world came into being. Okay? So we, by connecting ourselves to Chesed of Avraham, we can trigger that Ein Sof that did not create the world, the higher Ein Sof, that was not involved with the creation of the world, actually needed to be pushed aside when Hashem created the world, because otherwise there was no room for creation. We can tap into that Ein Sof. So the question that we ask is, how can a human being create such a thing? So the Zohar says, if you can create that union between Chesed and Malchut, Hashem Yichud, Kudsha B'Chu, creating Yichud, you be able to tap into that level of Ein Sof. That's in short. Okay. שעניינו הוא עניין החסד דווקא. ועל די זה נעשית המשכה גם בספירת המלכות, בחינת נוקבה שמצד עצמה אין הגילוי mer למטה. So ועל פי זה, in line 27, page 10, line 27, ועל פי זה יובן גם הקשר בין שני הפירושים בפסוק. So there's two interpretations in the pasuk, אתה כהן לעולם. This is a pasuk in Tehillim, in chapter 110, Kuf Yud in Tehillim. It says over there, אתה כהן לעולם. What is the meaning of this pasuk? There's two pirushim, two interpretations. שבתחילה מפרש שקאי על אברהם. First it says, it speaks about Avraham Avinu. David HaMelech is writing, is telling us about the greatness of Avraham Avinu. He is a kohen לעולם. What does it mean, kohen לעולם? Kohen, we know, is sfirat chesed. Kohen is chesed. Kohen is a giver. So Avraham Avinu is chesed forever. ואחר כך מוסיף שקאי על דוד. Then it adds that it is also referring, מכוון על דוד המלך. It's referring to King David. כי על ידי זה שישנו תחילה עניינו של אברהם. First there is the revelation of Avraham Avinu. What does Avraham Avinu represent? חסד, בחינת החסד שלמעלה מסדר השתלשלות. אזי נמשך בחינת אתה במדרגת דוד, בחינת המלכות שמצד עצמה היא באופן, we're going into page י' דעת חסר היא שגם בה יהיה עניין דעתם עליהם. So he tells us there are two levels. There's the level of Avraham Avinu and there's the level of David HaMelech. The level of Avraham Avinu is the first chesed. What chesed? Chesed למעלה מסדר השתלשלות, above the world. Then comes the level of David HaMelech, בחינת המלכות, that deficient, doesn't have the hay, and that is the second chesed, the second level that we need to connect ourselves to. שגם בה יהיה עניין דעתם עליהם. So our job is to introduce the hay also to the lower level. So even in Sfirat HaMalchut, we should need to find that, we need to tap in to bring this hay to make it אתה מלא. ד' הוא ממשיך בפסוק in Tehillim, Kuf Yud, he writes, אתה כהן לעולם, and then he writes the words, על דברתי מלכי צדק. What does it mean? על דברתי, my words, מלכי צדק, righteousness, or a true king, eternal king. What does it mean? King of just, a just king, שפירושו על דברת מלכי צדק, והיוד יתרה. Divrati is written with a yud at the end. Dalet beit resh taf yud. Divrati. And he says that really what he meant is divrat malki tzedek. The dibur, the speech of the king of justice. So a yud yetera. Seemingly the yud is superfluous, is added, is redundant, is not needed. Why does it say divrati? Could say al divrat malki tzedek. So he writes, Umevayer atzemach tzedek. Third, Lubavitcher Rebbe explains, Shezeu al derech hayud dahayoshvi bashamayim. Again, another pasuk. This pasuk is found in Tehillim 123, and over there it says al hayoshvi bashamayim. Again with a yud. You can write al hayoshev bashamayim. Al derech zayud, another yud, written in 113 in Tehillim, Kuf Yud Gimel, Amagbihi Lashavet. Again with a Yud. Say Amagbihi Lashavet. What is Amagbihi Lashavet? An extra Yud. So we see these Yuds being added in a few places. Divrati instead of Divrat, Yoshvi instead of Yoshev, and Magbihi instead of Magbia. All these psukim have seemingly, they have an extra Yud. Yud that is not needed. She gam kenosefet, which is added. The Zohar asks this question. The Zohar says, Hayoshev mi baile. You should have write Yoshev, not Hayoshvi. What is Hayoshvi? My Hayoshvi, the Zohar says, and then he answers. The Zohar answers veteretz in line 10. Veteretz dehayud more al yesod Abba. What does it mean? Yud more al yesod Abba. The Yud is Chokhmah. Yud is referencing to wisdom that is hinted in the letter Yud. That's what it means, Yesod Abba, Chokhmah. Ve'aramaz, the Kabbalist Rabbi Menashe Zakut, famous Kabbalist on the Zohar, wrote interpretation on the Zohar, is also called the Ramaz. Rabbi Menashe Zakut, Sham Piresh, over there he explains, Ki Chokhmah u'Bina Ilain nirmezu shneem be'ot Yud bimlo'ah. Chokhmah and Bina, meaning wisdom and understanding, Ilain, the supernal one, not the one that we relate to, the ones that are above us, nirmezu, they're both hinted, ba'ot Yud bimlo'ah. What does it mean? Usually, Chokhmah is hinted in the letter Yud, and Bina is connected with the letter Hey. Chokhmah is Yud, Bina is Hey. But when you speak about Chokhmah u Bina Ilain, Ilain means the supernal one, Ava Bedarga Na'alet Yoter, when talking about higher levels, Chokhmah u Bina Ilain, the Bina is closer to Chokhmah. The Bina and Chokhmah are very close to each other. They're not so far apart. And they're both hinted in the letter Yud. Bamilui Shela. What is the milui of the Ed? When you say Yud Bimlo'ah, is Yud Vav Daled. Oh, if you take the letter Yud, and I tell you, how do you write the letter Yud? How do you write the letter Yud? No, but someone that doesn't know the sound.
Yeah.
What do you write? Yud Vav Daled. So Yud Bimlo'ah is when we say Yud Bimlo'ah is Yud Vav Daled. Right. Mem, for example, Mem Bimlo'ah is Mem Mem. Yeah. So he writes Yud Bimlo'ah when they have Yud Vav Daled is telling us about two levels together, Chokhmah and Bina together. Usually Yud is Chokhmah and Hey is Bina. Because Yud is the essence. Right, but over here we're speaking about Chokhmah and Bina. So Chokhmah and Bina together is, like you said, Yud and Hey. That's usual. But when you speak about Chokhmah and Bina Ilain, which is the supernal one, Ilain, Ma'uleh, Ilui, higher, these both are hinted in the letter Yud, but not just Yud regular, Yud Vav Daled, in the complete Yud. V'lachen, which is interesting because Vav and Daled together is also Yud. If you take the Vav and Daled, 6 and 4 is also Yud, right? The gematria of both of them. So you have two kinds of Yud. When you have the word Yud Vav Daled, you really have 20, 2 Yuds. We have 2 Yuds. The first Yud is Chokhmah. The second Yud, within the Yud itself, is Bina. So he says Chokhmah u Bina Ilain, they're so close to each other, and that's why we put them in one Yud. That's what the Zohar says. V'lachen, Pirush Hayoshvi Bashamayim, when we say Hayoshvi Bashamayim, which is speaking about Hashem, the one who dwells in the heavens. Why does it say it with Yud Yatera, B'Yud Yatera, U'shiyumshechu bezer anpin amshacha mochin de gadlut? What does it mean? We want Chokhmah and Bina to come down, to be drawn down to the midot, to the emotive attributes. That the midot should also have Chokhmah and Bina. Within the midot itself, within the chesed, you should have Chokhmah. Within Gevurah, you should have Chokhmah. Shiyumshechu bezer anpin. המשכת מוחין דגדלות, שלמעלה מערת המוחין נמשכת בדרך כלל מחוכמה ובינה אליהן, שבהם מאיר עתיקה קדישה. He says like this. ברוך תהיה. Why would we have an extra yud, היושבי בשמיים, with an added yud? He says, I'm trying to create המשכת זעיר אנפין. What do I want to get into Zeir Anpin? To the emotive attributes. Mochin de gadlut. Not just regular intellect, rather Mochin de gadlut, which is a lofty intellect. A higher level that usually is being drawn down from Chokhmah Bina Elon, Sheboem Meiratika Kadisha. It says what happens within Chokhmah and Bina Elon, what type of revelation they have, Atika Kadisha. The Keter, we said it. I think I remember this mimer we spoke about. It says in the writings of the Arizal that Ein Sof is giving to Chochmah and Bina bekiruv, with closeness, right? Similarly, so that was the first one is Hayoshvi Bashmaim. Why does it say with the added Yud? So that is telling us about the revelation of the drawdown of Zeranpin, the drawdown of Meichin the Gadlus into Chochmah Bina. Similarly, Pirush al Divrosi, another expression in Tehillim, another pasuk in Tehillim, which is an added Yud, Shetoyer b'dibu, that you'd have a revelation into Dibu. Divrosi is Dibu. What do we want to have a revelation in Dibu? Malchus also. B'chinas Malchus, b'chinas Chochmah Bina Elon. So we want to have a drawdown from Chochmah Bina Elon into Malchus, supernal wisdom and understanding into the revelation of, into the manifestation of, the attribute of Malchus. So Chochmah Bina Elon is a level that the wisdom understanding on a higher level. Elon is a level that the kettle they receive directly from the will of Hashem, from Ratzon. We want that to give to Malchus. Al Divrosi is referencing to Malchus. So Yoshvi is telling us about the flow into the emotive attribute, to Zeranpin. Divrosi, where it says in Tehillim with an added Yud, the Zohar tells us that's Hamshacha to Malchus. Again, from Chochmah Bina, both of them is speaking about a flow from Chochmah Bina. One is into the emotive attributes, Yoshvi, Divrosi is into Malchus. V'zeu gam, now we're going back to the original pasuk that we started off with. The name of this mimer, Semuchim Laad La'olam, which is from 111. Semuchim Laad, which means they are being supported forever. We said before about the support, the help. The help to whom? Lebchinas Malchus, to the attribute of Malchus. Shizman Agolus Lebchinas Nefilo. Malchus in the time of exile is in a state of descent, Nefila, it's falling. So what do you do to support Malchus? Is by giving it from a higher place, from a higher source. Imagine somebody, just to simplify it, if someone is down for whatever reason, so you come, you encourage him, give him a word of encouragement, everything will be okay, you move on, this, that, okay? Then comes some kind of a dignitary, and he tells them words of encouragement. So the guy is really uplifted, is raised from his lowly place. Imagine the king himself is now giving him words of encouragement. So we say Malchus is in a state of nefila, is falling. In time of exile, Malchus is suffering, Malchus is not happy. We say Yokim et Sukkahs David HaNefeles. The Sukkah of David right, represents Malchus, his Nefeles is falling. We want to raise it up, bring it up. How do we bring it up? It says from a higher level. The higher the level is, the higher the elevation would be. You can uplift it even higher and higher. The same way that with encouragement, the one who, if you get encouragement from a regular guy, it's not as much as you're getting it from. So let's finish. It says to the level of Samech. What is Samech? We said the difference between Samech and Mem. One is Bina and one is Tevuna. Mem is Tevuna, but Samech is Makif Arochak. Is the Makif that doesn't have any itlabshus, doesn't have any enclosement, any investment in any inner investment. She'en lo achizu b'pnimius, In general, the light that we are discussing, the revelation that we are speaking about, is a revelation that is associated with the time of Mashiach. As we said before, the word Semuchim Laad, the word Laad is an expression of jewel, of something that is a decoration of beauty, which represent delight, that will be revealed in the time of Mashiach, which is in general the concept of Shabbos, because Shabbos is a concept of oineg, bifrat, of delight, bifrat. The Maimah was said specifically in Ravo Derayvin. So the Rebbe said, especially at this time, Ravo Derayvin is the time of Suda Shlishis, the will of all wills. What is the will of all wills? Is the general Keser, the Odom Kadmin, the will of all wills. V'zeu gam ma shekosu. That's what it says in the beginning of chapter 110 in Tilim. Neum Avaye la'adoini shev le'emini. Which means sheneisa v'pirushim enan shekayil Avram v'David. Beside all the interpretations that we said before, we're speaking about Avram and David. That the capital is referencing to Avram Avinu and King David. Yesh legam pirush shekal Mashiach. There is also the interpretation that is the Sufruno. The Sufruno is telling us that it's also speaking about Mashiach. Ata kohen lo'elam. And this interpretation actually fits to what we said before, that the Amshocha in Malchus through Torah mitzvahs is from the Ein Sof, and from a level that will shine, will be revealed in the time of Mashiach. Vav. It's all dependent on our actions in the time of Golus, time of exile. As it says in Tanya, in Perek Lamed Zayin 37, over there Tanya speaks about it. Especially, specifically through learning Hasidut, Pnimus HaTorah, V'ad l'rozin d'oraita, to even learning the secrets of the Torah, Shuinyam Oit Samech, which is connected with the Samech, Chinas HaMakif HaRochek She'en Lo Achizo B'Pnimus, which is the distant, encompassing power that does not have any kind of hold innerly, Kefishu B'Torah, the way it is in the Torah. Not just Makif HaKorah is secrets, the secrets that we have access to. But the secrets of the secrets is Makif HaRochek. ככל העניין שיש לו בתורה באופן שגם בחינס רוזן דרוזן נמשך הסובו בלימוד באופן שעבון לעסוק ממש. It's such a way that even the secrets of the Torah, we're able to understand it, grasp it. This brings about the revelation that is above Ishtalshus, above the world, and comes in the world. That's bringing the hay into the world. And the ultimate purpose of creating the world is now being completed. Hashem wanted to have a dwelling place in this world, as it says in Tanchuma, in commentary on the Torah, in Pash B'chukoisai, Hashem wanted, Hashem desired to have a dwelling place in this world, that this lowly world will be a place that is fit to godly revelation. Bagula mitzvah shleimo, in the ultimate, in the true and complete redemption, gula shenachar golus, redemption that doesn't have afterwards exile. Shaloch and yom az. Therefore, they would say then, when Geula will come, when the redemption will come, Shir Chodesh, they will say a new song. Shir Chodesh will be a new song. Loshin Zocho, masculine, velo beloshin nekeva, and not Shira. They will say Shir. Shir is male. Shira is female. They will say Shir in Loshin Zocho, when nekeva comes to a female, she gives birth, and then she can get pregnant again. That's the idea. That's the concept of exile. Why? Because exile is like pregnancy. So even if there is a delivery, you can come into another golus, another pregnancy. But
we need any more pregnant.
ve'ilu la'osid lo, but in time of Mashiach, in time of Mashiach will be a birth and that's it.
That's it.
It will be a redemption that doesn't have afterward any exile.
Amen.
Alidei Mashiach Tzidkenu, that will happen through Mashiach Tzidkenu, Shev Le'emini, as it says in the pasuk Shev Le'emini. There are commentators who says the whole capital is speaking about Mashiach, and it says in the Rishimus of the manuscripts of the Tzemach Tzedek that they are referencing to the interpretation of the Sufruno that he wrote, that this psalm is speaking about Mashiach, and these words Shev Le'emini, he said, I'm not revealing it yet, but Teshev Le'emini and Maloche Ashores al Smeli, and the serving agents to my left. But bottom line is, Yahweh v'Galenu b'kol mamash should come and redeem us b'kol mamash speedily in our days.
Amen.
Ruchim to you.
I'm glad you said something.